Surprise, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So we were going to publish a show, but then we were like, but we said no more shows, and now, okay, but Happy New Year.
Yes, this is a surprise episode of Pride and Accomplishment.
Welcome to Pride and Accomplishment. My name is Jason.
And I'm Chris. This is a spoilercast of Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spoilercast. Spoiler.
Yes, you know what that means?
There will be spoilers.
Yes.
For an excellent movie that you should not have spoiled by this podcast.
Correct. Please do not let us be responsible for spoiling you on this great movie.
Did I mention there will be spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home in this episode of the podcast?
Yes, that means that we're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end of the whole movie and all the things that happen inside.
There will be no other content this episode, so don't be worried about missing anything else. Come back and listen to this after you've watched the movie.
Yes. And if you're waiting for it to come out on Disney Plus, don't bother because it comes out in 2024 on Disney Plus. But I think it goes to Netflix before that, maybe.
Okay, you have been warned. This movie is a perfect example of why I pay attention to no marketing material before a movie comes out. Because I went into this movie with zero idea what it was about.
Okay, me too. I mean, mostly.
Zero.
If you had asked me to tell you what it was about, what I thought it was about Doctor Strange and Peter Parker getting stuck in the multiverse and having to get back to their universe. That's what I would have told you the plot would have been in high-level guesses.
Okay. The only thing I knew, not by my own will, was that they were going to have to fight a bunch of villains that we have seen in other Spider-Man movies before.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's all I knew. I didn't know the context. I didn't know why. I didn't know that Doctor Strange was in it. I didn't know any of that stuff. And that's what I went into. And boy, am I glad I didn't know anything else, because the movie was so much better because of it.
So I think we should set some baselines here. Did you see the other Spider-Man movies, not the Tom Holland ones, but the ones before that?
I have seen every other Spider-Man movie, I think.
Okay, because I have only seen, I think, Spider-Man, the first one with Tobey Maguire from 2002 or whatever it was. And I don't think I saw any of the Andrew Garfield ones. The Amazing Spider-Man, I don't think I saw either of those.
Okay, so people are going to punch me for this, but can you remind me which one of those names is which? One has crazy hair and one doesn't.
Tobey Maguire is the one without the crazy hair.
Okay, cool.
Tobey Maguire is the oldest one.
The more subdued one.
The more subdued one, yes. Yes.
Okay, cool.
The one with Mary Jane, the redheaded Mary Jane in his universe.
Does not. Oh, yeah, okay. Instead of Gwen.
Yeah. The one with the upside down kissing in the rain scene that was super famous in 2002.
Yeah. I don't have name to face recognition. As soon as you told me which is which, I got it.
Gotcha.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to call him Spider-Man 2 because, spoiler, like we already said, that's Spider-Man 2 in the movie.
That's right. They called them 1, 2, and 3, where one is Tom Holland. And I was like, wait a minute, he's the newest one.
Yeah, but he's the one, he's Spider-Man Prime in that universe.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know. I had a little bit of trouble with that one. But I get it. As far as he knows, he's Spider-Man 1, but he's incorrect.
And all of the people that had never seen any of the other movies was just that's the only Spider-Man I know.
I suppose.
Okay. So I'm going to refer to them as Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3
That's
as
fine.
assigned by Tom in the movie.
Tom.
But yeah, okay, so let's start at the beginning.
So the movie started out with Peter Parker, you get this little flashback to what happened at the end of the previous Spider-Man movie, which was Far From Home, the one where they were in Europe and they had Mysterio and he was a great con man. And then at the end of the movie, he says Spider-Man is Peter Parker. And then he gets unmasked and against his will. And so it opens up basically right after that.
Yes, and that is the crux of why this whole plot happens, and that is the only problem I had with the entire movie.
What do you mean?
Because the premise of why the multiverse was broken, or however you want to say it, was it was one of those problems that I really hate in movies, where it was caused by a miscommunication that would probably never happen in the real world. Like, Doctor Strange would never just be like, oh, I'm going to run this spell that like has these like far-reaching and complicated consequences that we're not going to talk about before I actually start casting it. Like, come on.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird where he's like, oh, wait, I want to change all the parameters of this thing now after we started doing it. It's like, shouldn't you guys have made a list or something, like, or, you know, written this down?
They would have talked about it before he started casting it. Right,
but that's not dramatic.
I know. Okay, so yes, but that's like, that was my one problem with the movie. And I was over it as soon as they established it as the problem. I was just like, okay, I disagree with how we got here, but I'm cool with now being here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they needed that to happen for the movie to happen, so it's a net positive.
Yeah. I wish it would have, like, personally, I wish it would have rather been like, oh no, something went wrong and now everyone's going to forget you, instead of like just the people we talked about and like, I gotta contain it, blah, blah. And then like, I'd rather it have been like that rather than like, oh, it's a miscommunication and now everything's broken because you're a child. Like that, I don't know. It just felt like a cop-out.
Yeah, I do think, though, that the thing it did remind you pretty effectively is that Peter Parker is only 18 or whatever, however old he is. Like, he is a child, and he does not have the best decision-making skills. So I think that was well shown in that interaction.
I will agree with you. I will agree with you that if they had gotten to that point, that is how an 18-year-old would have reacted, I think. But, like, who's the child here? Doctor Strange freaking not talking about consequences before starting to take actions.
True.
Anyway, we can move on from this. Okay, so what happens next is he wants to get an MIT, blah, blah, blah. I loved the personal interaction between all of the characters, really, honestly. Like, the non-superhero parts of this movie, which started with the, hey, I'm impacting other people's lives because they're not getting into MIT because of me. I actually like truly felt during this movie because of that. Like, I was really into that interaction, and we'll talk about a little bit later, like when May died, like, oh my God. Like the whole like real person, regular drama story that was happening outside of like the superhero combat was fantastic.
Yeah, I think that one thing I read about this after seeing it, I did not go seek spoilers before seeing it, but after seeing it, one of the things I read was that they said they thought that this movie did stakes really well.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, like most of the superhero movies, like they have just like, oh yeah, you know, whatever, they're going to die, but then they're going to undie. Like it's probably going to be fine. And you just kind of assume that like Captain America is going to be fine. And I guess they did do this before with, I guess, should we expand our spoiler cone of trust here and to include Avengers Endgame and all that?
Yeah, if you haven't seen that by now, yes. But warning.
Yeah, that's on you. Spoilers for Avengers Endgame, I guess skip forward like a minute or two or whatever. But when they had Black Widow die, right? When they had Natasha Romanoff, she jumps off the cliff or whatever and ends up dead. And that was like oh gosh, like there are real stakes and this is unexpected for the MCU. But I think this movie took it to a whole new level.
Yeah, no, this movie did a great job of like making it real. Like this, like stuff is going to happen.
Yeah, so you really do get to see Peter. And I did think that the MIT not considering Peter's friends because they were Peter's friends was kind of like a little far-fetched to me, because I'm like, how is MIT going to know or care? Like, most likely. Unless they wrote it in their essay of like, I'm Spider-Man's best friend, which they wouldn't have. So I'm surprised that Well, they were in the news. They like showed that one magazine article that had all three of them with like prison like things. And I guess.
I mean, they were very clearly, by like the stuff going on, associated with the controversy.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, whether that makes it any more real or not, I don't know. But, like, it didn't seem far-fetched to me to, like, have them associated. Now, whether MIT or whether a college would have truly considered that.
That's what I mean.
I have a feeling academia is a little above that. Like, maybe I have a little bit too much faith in academia, but, like, I feel like they would have said, like, hey, the right thing to do here is to evaluate these people for who they are, not what's in the tabloids.
Yeah, and the other right thing to do would be to, like, talk to them, maybe, or something. Like, have an admissions interview, maybe.
Yeah, that's really fair. The other thing on this is, like, oh, this woman who thought he was like controversial, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're a hero. I was like, really? Like, really? Like, that was a sudden change, I guess.
Well, I mean, he did save her life, and she almost fell off a bridge and died.
He caused her to be in danger in the first place.
Well, yes, that's a fair point. He did kind of have a lot to do with her danger, but I don't know. She watched him do his thing up close, though, and she... Like, I feel like the whole thing about Spider-Man is that you've got, like, your J. Jonah Jameson character, like, you know, besmirching Spider-Man's name, right, and trying to call him a complete menace and all this stuff and whatever. And then you have everybody that sees him do his thing knows kind of that he's a good guy, as including the audience, right? The audience watches it from Spider-Man's perspective, and they see him doing the best he can and all of this. And then you have the Daily Bugle or whatever saying, oh gosh, he's a terrible person because he broke the city, which, I mean, that's the whole, they tried to do that in the Sokovia Accords and, like, what's the collateral damage of the superheroes and stuff. And I don't feel like they've ever, like, really given that enough of a personal angle, you know? Like, they try, they make villains that are, like, affected by the fallout of this stuff, but it just isn't the same level of, I don't know. It's not the same level of personal stuff. Again, stakes, right? When you're like, oh, the whole nation of Sokovia is mad because they got dropped out of the sky and turned into rubble. But, like, yeah, that sucks for a zillion people. But,
yeah, but
like,
you didn't see anyone that was impacted.
Right. And that's the thing is, in this one, you kind of see the up close effects of the things. And so you got the J. Jonah Jameson, and then she sees him do good and see that he's doing the best he can, and that all of this kind of cause and effect is happening to him. I mean, maybe she doesn't because she's stuck in a car, but, like, you'd like to think that's what she's seen, and that's why she changes her tune. I agree it was a little fast, but I was willing to let that one go.
Okay, all right. It didn't ruin the movie by any stretch, but...
Well, I feel like the whole first, like, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes of this movie, like, was on a completely different level than the back 2/3. Like, once you started to really kind of, it was strange because Doctor Strange, they caught all of the bad guys really quick, and you're like, okay, well, they did that, that's done, now what? And then they move on to this whole we're gonna fix them kind of subplot, and then they reveal that they've got the other Spider-Man, whatever, and that's where the whole thing opens up to me, I think, is where they start to have the multiple Spider-Man thing going on.
Okay, before we move on, when the octopus comes and, like, attacks him on the bridge,
right? I
was not familiar enough with that actor to, like, be stunned that he was in the movie. At that moment, did you know that that actor had been in a previous Spider-Man movie?
I had a suspicion, but I think for most of the movie, I wasn't sure until the other Spider-Man started to show up. Like, I didn't know for sure that these were the same actors of the villains that were in the previous movies. So no, I would say that I like suspected, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, I knew that the Green Goblin, as soon as he spoke,
oh yeah, that
was
I
Willem
knew
Dafoe.
Instantly. Willem Dafoe from the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, I think. Absolutely,
yes. Like, you knew right away that was him. His voice is unmistakable. Like, I knew he was in the movie. And I was, like, kind of impressed at that moment because I didn't know. And then, like, he takes his later in the movie, he takes his mask off. I was like, oh, that is actually him. Oh my gosh. And I was very impressed that he was in the movie. But at this point, he's the only actor that I had realized that they had gotten back, right? Because I didn't realize that Dr. Octavian, is that his name?
Doc Ock,
was from a previous movie. Doc Ock was from a previous movie, I knew that Green Goblin was in the same costume and everything. Like, I knew that there was no, like, you know, reimagining happening there. And I was very, very impressed at that moment.
Yeah, like, this is the guy.
But then, and I don't know if I'm jumping, but then they kicked it up a notch. Okay, so imagine me sitting in the theater knowing nothing about this movie and them opening a portal to Peter Parker. And at that moment, when they opened a portal, I was like, that's not Tom Holland. Like, you knew, like, the stature and the height and everything. You're like, I know that's not him. Oh, cool. They're bringing another Spider-Man. They're probably, like, in my mind, in that moment, I'm like, they're just going to keep the mask on the whole time, right? Like, There's no way they went and got the Spider-Man from the other movie, right? Like, that's what's literally running through my head at this moment. And then he takes the mask off, and it's the other freaking Spider-Man. And I lost it in the theater. People looked at me like I was crazy, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize either, but I feel like there was a little bit of like, oh, like in our theater, but it wasn't everybody. It wasn't most people, I would think.
Oh my gosh. And then they got the other one and I was just like blown away. And oh God, it was really good. That was a really, really cool moment for me. And then, like, I know I'm jumping way ahead here, but I just want to start the conversation with the interaction between the three Spider-Men made the movie one of the best Marvel movies that has come out yet.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had a really good kind of on-screen chemistry, right? They had a really good banter between them all. And like when they're making the fixes and they're kind of doing the montage of the making the fix thing, and then Ned or MJ, I forget, or somebody goes, you know, Peter, and they're all like, yeah, and they're like, Peter Parker. He's like, yeah, that's all of us.
That was so good.
Oh, that was very, very
okay,
good.
I'm going to jump around more here, but we've lost total chronological order. Okay, so I'm going to talk about when May dies. May dies. That scene did two things for me. One, incredible emotion when she died, right? Mm-hmm. But it was such a good callback to two things. One, when Uncle Owen died, Uncle Ben, sorry, Star Wars mix up there. Uncle Ben died. It was a great callback to that. Also, I had I don't know if you felt this, but I had huge Tony Stark looking at Peter Parker when he died vibes.
Yeah, I guess it did have a little bit of that to it. Yeah.
Where like he was now watching someone drift away. I had that vibe a lot. But that scene was very, very good, and I liked it a lot. And with Happy there, and it was, oh God, it was so good. Stakes. But then on the roof, oh my God. And this is what separates like this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So he's on like, oh, would he go a place that like, you know, he could just, and they get to the roof, no words are spoken. And MJ and Ned come up to him and just hold him. And that was so powerful for me. That was the moment in the movie where I was just like, this is real now.
Yeah. I mean, that was all amazingly acted, I would say, by all of them. And like Tom Holland is very good at crying on set, on screen, whatever. Like he did it when he's, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. Like he is very good at showing that emotion, which not all actors and especially not all men are particularly good at. Like he has a very raw, like very real kind of reaction to that kind of emotion. I'm not sure that he would pull off angry as well, but he pulls off sad very well.
He didn't pull off angry very well, but because he's like, oh, I want to rip him apart, you know, like he said that line, and he pulled off like vengeful or revengeful kind of well, but not angry. Yeah.
It's true. Well, it's okay. We'll have lots of experience. I don't know if you showed up too late to see the trailers because it's you and you're trying to avoid them, but the Uncharted movie had a trailer before our showing of Spider-Man, and
I saw that.
I think that movie looks very good, but I'm definitely going to go see it. I'm very interested to see it, But I don't.
Should I play the game first?
You should play at least one of the games first. I think you should probably play either Uncharted 3 or Uncharted 4 first. I would say.
Okay. That was my only qualm with the movie. It was like, man, I should really play the game first.
Yeah, I mean, you should at least like kind of know the general. I mean, if you want to, you could go into it and just say, okay, this is new Indiana Jones. Got it. Like you could put that in your head as like the idea of what you should be thinking.
Into that. Tom Holland is the new Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's what it's going to turn into, but yeah. The funny thing is that in Uncharted, it's voice acted by Nolan North, who does voice acting for like everything, and he's very good. He's also the male human character in Guild Wars 2. And he's he's the voice of Nathan Drake in Uncharted.
Fun fact.
Yep.
Wow, way to bring it back around to video games.
Yep. Pride and accomplishment. Here we are. So anyway, but yeah, if you see the movie, I just think it's a little bit weird because the movie character has a very particular look, and Tom Holland is not that look, but that's fine. It can be different. Moving on back to Spider-Man, the movie we're actually talking about today.
Anyway, May dies. Great scene. Excellent scene. Her dying, fantastic. Oh, and the okay, so I felt like the with great power comes great responsibility was not cheesy at all.
Not even in my mind,
which was so hard to accomplish, and they did it.
Yeah, that was amazing. Like that was it. You weren't well, and you know what it was. You know what I realized as I was sitting in the movie and watching it and thinking to myself, wow, that was actually really well done and not cheesy at all. It's because they made you wait for it, right? You made it through like 6 movies with this Spider-Man character in it and nobody said it.
But then they told you why you waited for it.
Remind me.
Because she had to say it on the day she died.
Oh, because that's the trope? That's the story?
That's the thing. Uncle Ben said it on the day he died.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I guess I wasn't thinking of it that way, but you're right. It always is kind of the dying breath kind of phrase. I think I found it like, oh, they made you wait for it. Like you didn't feel like they were just checking a box. And I think really it was that they had gone so long without saying it that you just kind of gave up on it. You're just like, oh, they're not going to do that in this Spider-Man universe. And that's fine. And like they didn't.
Oh, well, I always assumed Tony would do it. And he didn't.
Oh, that's true. He didn't. Yep. Well, and also they didn't show, because they alluded to this too in this movie, they didn't show the spider bite in this Spider-Man universe, right? They've never flashed back to it. They don't have any like scene of it. There's no like there's general reference, but it's generally assumed that the audience knows kind of how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. Wow, there's no. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think back now. There's no origin story for him? No, because he just kind of shows up in Civil War, and then he comes through the 2 Endgame movies, or whatever the two whatever Endgame is and the one before it, Infinity War. And then he's in his own series, and he just is Spider-Man at that point, I'm pretty sure. Civil War is his first appearance? Yep. Because it was a surprise when he joins that battle. Like, he just shows up at JFK because he's in New York, because he's Spider-Man and he's in New York. Interesting. Man. Okay. All right. I might have to... Well, okay. So on my list for, like, you know, before I die is to rewatch the entire, like, series now. Of the MCU? Of the MCU, yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I realized today that, like, man, I need to watch Doctor Strange again. This stuff is cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say that Doctor Strange has gotten better with time. Like, the more iterations of Doctor Strange stuff that they do, I think the better it gets. And, like, developing him as a character. I agree. I also think, though, that, like, they did a really good job of making him a very hated person in the first movie, as they should have. Like, he was a very, like evil kind of person. I mean, right? Because like, he was a jerk, like, as a person. Yeah, he was not kind-hearted, right. Which is where a lot of, I mean, neither was Tony, but I feel like Tony wasn't hated as much, whereas Doctor Strange, they did such a good job of, like, or Benedict did such a good job of making you not like him, right? Because he wasn't a likable guy. And I felt like that kind of stayed with me a little bit. And then, What If didn't help that at all with the evil version of Doctor Strange. But, like, I felt like I always had a very weird relationship with Doctor Strange. Like, it wasn't as, like, fun and go lucky. And even in this movie, he was, like, not a good guy. I mean, he was the, I don't know, the bad cop parent, as it were. Like, he was trying to look after Peter's well-being and do the I would say, objectively right thing in terms of like putting the world back together and the universe back together how it was supposed to have been, I guess is maybe the best way to say it. So like he was just doing his job to some degree. And it came off because they were painting in that direction as like, oh, don't you care about these supervillain people who have all died in their universes? And it's like, I mean, are we supposed to? Do we have to? Like, they've had their thing. They did their movies. They died. That sucks, but like for them. But it was an entertaining movie, so I guess they served their purpose. So if they're dead in their multiverses in the movies that have finished that I've seen 20 years ago, then so be it. That was kind of my thought on that, was like, I understand that they're trying to be kind-hearted and they're trying to help here, but like, I don't know if that's strictly necessary.
Well, I think there was also an element of like, God, what they did with Ahsoka and Star Wars as well. And some other movies. God, what was another one I recently saw? I'm trying to think of, where they like take the main character and like they have to prove that they care about other people now.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was kind of like a not a coming of age, but like a growing up and like, okay, you care about other people now. And this was like kind of Peter Parker's journey, I think, a little bit in like listening to his, I mean, all three of them went through it, right? Like each of them had this moment where like they don't care about them. They have to care about more than just themselves. With great power comes great responsibility.
Sure.
And I think that was this movie for him. It's a little late in the series, but that's what happened here. And I think Doctor Strange was supposed to be the battle that he had to fight. And I don't know, it gave Doctor Strange a bad name again. And anyway, but it doesn't, like, his movies are so cool. Like the Doctor Strange universe is kind of cool. The one problem I have with Doctor Strange, and it happened in this movie again, is there always seems to be, it's a very soft magic system where there don't seem to be any rules.
Like, right. Yes.
What can't he do?
He can do whatever he needs to do the doing.
Yeah, and that's very like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, where it's just like, okay, but like where, like, is there, like, there's a limit because you said there is, not because you have established any rules for us. And this is like one of my personal preferences, where some people really prefer soft magic systems and some people really prefer hard magic systems. And we should definitely have a whole show about this, about hard magic systems versus soft magic systems and consequences and how they work and blah, 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 blah. I am passionate for hard magic, where it's like there is something you can do that seems magical but has rules. And Doctor Strange does not fit into that category.
Not even a little bit. I actually think that by that same token, Captain Marvel is kind of in the same camp in Marvel.
Oh,
universe.
No. She's a coup de grace. Or not a coup de grace. God, what is that? The name of that thing that they do in Greek theater?
Deus Ex Machina, yeah.
Is that where they like call upon the gods and they just fix everything at the end of the movie?
Basically.
Okay, that's what she is. And she's like a cop-out for any plot that you ever need. You're just like, oh, Captain Marvel's here. Yay!
Yeah, well, she just like magically is stronger than everyone and can fix everything. And I think that's a little much.
I mean, she is my favorite, so I'm a little biased, but whatever. She's my favorite because she's the best.
Yeah. If you ask me what her power list is, I couldn't tell you. She can fly. That's pretty much all I know.
She can fly. She can shoot lasers out of her chest or arms or eyes or all three at the same time. Who knows? She's indestructible. She's essentially an Infinity Stone in human form.
True, because that was how her origin story was and all that, I guess.
And apparently she's so super freaking busy that she can't be in any other movies. Saving the galaxy and other places, I guess. Where were we?
Well, you'll be happy to know, getting back again on topic, that Doctor Strange is the next Marvel movie to be coming out. So in May of 2022, at least for now, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is coming.
This has been a strange one where they've like been, I mean, it was supposed to release forever ago, right? Like all of these movies have been delayed. And I feel like this one should have come out, 2 years ago or a year ago or something?
At least a year ago, because the previous Spider-Man movie came out in 2019. So I don't think it could have come out in 19. It would have been probably Christmas of 2020 if they could have.
Yeah, I just feel like I've been hearing about like Doctor Strange and the multiverse for years.
Yeah, everything got jumbled around this year, for sure. And last year. I was just looking at a list. They did not release any Marvel movies in 2020.
Nope. Why would they?
I mean, you're right. There was no theaters to go to.
They had to spend a metric butt ton on this movie, like to get everyone in it. Can you imagine the contracts in this movie? They're just like, listen, you're going to come back and we need you to come back because that's the only way the movie happens. Oh, and by the way, if we don't get everyone back, this contract is null and void.
Oh, that's true. They would have had to have a lot of like contingencies on everybody signing on. Although I feel like they could have, if they could only get one of the Spider-Men, or if they could only, certain villains, they could have made their villain list a little different if they had to.
The electric guy, which I don't even remember the original one, was a different actor, right? Because he was like, oh, I remember you with glasses and bigger teeth or something. What did he say?
Yeah, he said they had some line about how he was different.
And he said in like, oh, I like how I look in this universe. Which was okay, fine. That I guess that's a good way to get around it. But I don't remember that character anyway. So
he was in the Amazing Spider-Man 1 or 2. I don't know which one, but he was in one of the Andrew Garfield ones with Spider-Man 3 in your numbering system here. Which is funny because only Spider-Man 2 had a Spider-Man 3 other than Tom Holland. So
also the one scene that I really liked. So I talked about like how the three. I know we're kind of going backwards here, but we talked about the three Spider-Men, like how they interacted. That was really, really good. I liked the scene where they're like, I don't know how to be in a team. Like, please help me. And Spider-Man 1 was just like, I know how to be in a team. And they're like, how is this helping?
Yeah. He's like, I'm an Avenger. I can tell you all about the Avengers. And they're like, and what's an Avenger?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was a really good scene. But in that fight scene, it was cool. I guess things were kind of neat and stuff. And they started working together, and that was a really cool scene, and the music was really good because it was kind of Avengers themed, and it was Spider-Man, and the music was really good. But when Spider-Man 3, who lost Gwen, caught MJ, oh yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, you could see him like trying to make up for lost time, sort of.
Oh, and the other one, oh God, I love the scenes where they don't say anything. Where Spider-Man 1,
this movie would be a lot better if none of you talked.
No, it's just like they did such a good job of conveying emotion and like acting and with no words.
Sure.
It was when Spider-Man 1 was going to kill the Green Goblin with his like glider, and Spider-Man 2 like caught it and just looked at him, and just looked at him, and just kept looking at him and didn't have to say anything. I was like, oh my God.
Well, Tobey Maguire, I don't know what he's been up to lately, but he was a really good Spider-Man, I think. Although he did get a little weird in his sequel movies, because that was where he went all emo, where he like had his hair parted weird, and that was with Venom and all that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, well, Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 were not well regarded as Spider-Man movies. This was in the time when like superhero movies, like Spider-Man, the first one was like, oh my gosh, superhero movies can be good. And then they kind of like went downhill from there, and they're a little campy, and they're like, superhero movies not so great. And then Iron Man comes out, and then the MCU starts, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, superhero movies. And now everyone's like, oh my gosh, there's too many superhero movies. So it's all interrelated here. But yeah, he's really good. And Tobey Maguire is like, he's like 47 or something like that. He's old.
Is he really? Wow, yeah. He still looked really young.
I know.
They did a nice job of like of making sure everyone still looked the age that they were in their movies, or they haven't aged much anyway. I mean, Willem Dafoe, I assume, hasn't aged much. I mean, he has, obviously, like it's been 20 years, but like he didn't look all that much older.
Yeah, he's 66 now. So he would have been 50, 46, whatever, in the first Spider-Man. At the very end, they go through, he kind of realizes that he has to like, actually go through with the whole erase everybody's mind thing, which I didn't exactly understand, where he was like, we can fix this if we just do the thing as originally planned. And it's like, why does that fix it? I guess it's because all of the people were coming from the multiverses towards Peter Parker, but also, how do that many people know who he is?
Because there's infinite number of universes. We've only seen 3 Peter Parkers worth.
That's a fair point.
There's a Peter Parker where he's a pig. Like, there's infinite number of universes, right? But we only saw 3 of them in this movie, and all of the rest of them were coming, and they had to make them all forget so that they would stop coming. I got it. What I didn't understand is why couldn't Doctor Strange in all of his infinite wisdom be like, oh, right, all of those, like, prerequisites? Again, we talked about it. Like, why couldn't he write the spell at that moment to be like, oh, well, MJ and Ned and, well, your aunt's dead now. And, like, all of these other people, like, why do they have to forget about you? If you could write the spell like that, why couldn't he have done it in that moment?
I feel like it had to be unconditional or else it wouldn't have worked. And that was kind of where they were going with, is like, you have to just do it no strings attached and go with a clean break, because otherwise there's too much risk of screwing it up. It was kind of the vibe that I got.
I mean, fine. Okay.
But I mean, that's a little bit of a shaky argument as well. But yeah, they go through that whole thing though. And I thought that was really, really good too, where he was saying goodbye to his friends, where like,
yeah, that was a great scene.
They knew they were going to forget him. And then like, but they were like, no, we'll never forget you. And he's like, no, you're gonna, because Doctor Strange is really good at magic, whatever that means. And then they do forget him, and that was another instance of stakes where it was like, oh yeah, okay, they really went there. And to further double down on the stakes thing, they went and he shows up at the donut shop, and they got into MIT and everything, and he talks to MJ, and she just doesn't remember him, and he's got this whole like speech written out, and it's a very high school thing, but he's got this whole thing written out on a piece of paper, and he's going to read it, and then he decides not to, and that was like, oh my gosh, you're not even going to try.
Well, okay, so I took that as he can't read a script to get her back.
That's true.
I read that as he has to do it again. They have to fall in love again, and I feel like what he realized at that moment is that she is going to love him because they just click. And they did in that scene. Like, they just clicked in that scene, and they showed, like, they quote love each other because they work together, and within like theoretically just meeting each other, they were already like had huge, like they already had huge chemistry. And that's what I saw out of that scene. And I feel like he realized that in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably how it's supposed to read. I didn't read enough chemistry in it, I guess, in order for him to like, I was like, you've only got whatever, a summer before she goes off to MIT, right? That you gotta like get to know her. And
well, who says he's not going?
Well, I guess that's true. You're right, because now he's just some schmuck that can get into MIT, right? He can just
exactly.
He just does it with his grades that I assume are good.
Yeah.
How does also? Sorry, I don't want to dig into this too deeply because we probably definitely
how do the logistics of writing Peter Parker's name down work?
No, yeah, seriously, but like, how if everybody forgets who he is, like, does he even attend a school?
Have school records?
Like, does he exist in
I was
the world?
thinking the same thing. It's such a a computer science engineering question. Like, what happened to all the data?
Yeah, you just drop table Peter Parker. Like, what happens?
Yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing, and I chose to not think about it.
All those foreign keys, they're just gone.
What a nerdy way to say it, but yes. I consciously chose not to think about it. We're such nerds.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a good ending. I thought that was nice. I guess I was sort of hoping for a, like, they didn't do anything with it either, but like I was hoping like, she gave him her necklace or something, and then he gives it back to her, and then she knows, and then they get like a little bit of resolution. But that was not this movie.
I also would have, I mean, it would have been peeking into the next movie a little bit. I also wish it would have been like, she would have gone back to Ned and be like, do you recognize that guy?
Yeah, or
I
something.
recognize that guy. Like, I feel like I recognize that guy or something. Like, I felt like that was kind of needed, but also that would have lowered the stakes.
Correct. And that's what I mean by saying that's not this movie.
Yeah. No, it was, oh gosh, it was good. And then Happy at the gravesite.
Oh my gosh. Where he's like, oh, how'd you know her? Through Spider-Man? Yeah, I guess you did. But like, oh, man.
Yeah, man. Oh, it was good. It kept the stakes high even through the end of the movie. And that's not something Marvel movies normally do.
Everything is supposed to wrap up with a bow. Like, I should leave this movie feeling good.
Right. They pull back. They're like, hey, there were huge stakes. And then it's just like, but there really weren't.
Yeah, but Doctor Strange did something and it's all undone now. Yay. Like even, I mean, Infinity War did that, right? So Infinity War, they snap and they wipe out half the people, but you're like, oh, but I know there's a part 2 coming out next year. It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's coming out literally a year from today. Yeah.
Right. They've already planned for this. I'm sure they're going to undo that and they're going to figure it out because it's Marvel and that's what they do. This one did not have that kind of ending.
No.
And I don't know. I liked it though.
I do feel in my heart, which I know is a really touchy-feely thing to say, but I feel in my heart that MJ is going to relearn who Peter Parker is. Like, it has to, right? Like that, it has to happen.
Yes.
She may not remember everything, but they're going to fall back in love.
Sure. Except he remembers everything, and that's going to be weird.
Now, let me ask a question. What do you think about this whole Ned, Doctor Strange, Prodigy kind of thing?
I think it's fine. I don't like. It's neat, I guess, but it didn't make me go, oh my gosh! Like it wasn't. I didn't like it or dislike it, I suppose.
Do you think something's going to happen there, or was that just kind of a one-off?
I think something might happen there. It could happen, but I don't see Ned becoming a primary character. But maybe.
I see Ned potentially doing a TV show.
Yes, that would actually make he would make a good
like
TV.
Comedy.
Yep.
Like real chill, like not chill, like real like lighthearted learning how to become a wizard kind of TV show.
Right, and that would also give you an excuse to have more of Wong, who is hilarious and great.
Yes.
So
I'm thinking like Wizards of a Waverly Place kind of vibe.
Oh gosh, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like
yeah, like honestly, like it very clearly worked in the past.
Oh my. Yeah, I mean maybe.
And they're too good. Like I like both of those actors.
Mm-hmm. They are both very good, yes. So I could see that, yes, I could see that happening potentially. Now that we've gotten through the whole movie, what did you think of the post-credit scene? And 2 questions. Did you watch the second after-credit scene?
No, because, okay, so I lied. I did know also from you advising me to not stay for the second credit scene, and I had to pee so bad.
Yeah, that was my thing. So I get to the end of the movie, and I had to pee, and the movie's over, and I'm watching the credits, and you get to the first credit scene, you're like, okay, that's a credit scene. Fine. I don't really care at all about Venom.
It set the stakes for the next one.
Did it, though?
Yeah. Venom's going to be in the next, like, he's going to be the next villain, I assume.
I don't think so. So I thought that was some kind of, like, final crossover with, there is a Venom, like, movie right now, isn't there? Like, Venom Let There Be Carnage or whatever. Isn't that, like...
Oh, yeah, now? It's coming out soon, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I thought that was, like, just a further multiverse crossover thing, because I think that one is also a completely separate, like...
Well, yeah, it's because he's got sucked back into his own universe.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But I don't know that is setting up the next Tom Holland MCU anything.
Well, but he left a little piece of himself behind.
Oh, that's true.
Right? And that little parasite, or whatever Venom is, stayed in Tom Holland's world.
It's a symbiote.
Sure, great. It stayed in Tom Holland's world.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's true. I don't know. I just kind of, that whole thing, I was just like, I don't really care. Like, this is, I mean, I guess.
It was also kind of just a funny scene. Also, the guy from Ted Lasso in there, great cameo.
Yes. I mean, I think it wasn't really a cameo because he wasn't playing Danny Rojas as the guy. He was just
but I mean, like,
a bartender in Mexico.
I liked seeing him there. Yeah.
But that's fair. Speaking of cameos, the only one we haven't talked about is Daredevil. Did you catch that?
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
I was hoping for a little more interaction from him as that was all kind of happening.
Yeah, that was the one from the TV show, right?
Correct. That was Charlie Cox or whatever his name is, who plays Daredevil.
Is he the same one from the movie?
No, that was Ben Affleck.
Oh, that's right. But I didn't watch the TV show, but I did recognize him as Daredevil.
I did watch the TV show. The TV show was actually pretty good. Like, very good, I think. It was one of those Netflix MCU shows before Disney kind of sucked back all the rights for Disney Plus.
Yeah. I think that was the one, I don't remember the show, but that was the one show where they did the really long one-shoot hallway scene.
Yes. The big fight scene.
Yeah.
It was a big
That was
shot.
the only part I remember about that show.
Yeah, that was in like the first episode.
I know, but they did a bunch of media about it, and it was actually a really cool scene.
Well, anyway, I would say that if you are looking for a show that's like superhero-y, that those Netflix Marvel shows are actually decent, especially Jessica Jones. But that's beside the point.
He was a good cameo. It was cool. I guess I never you just don't think about him being in this universe, but he is.
Right. He was actually in Tom Holland's universe. Like he was in the Prime universe of this movie.
Right.
So I guess I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him, but it's fine. It would have been fun to see him be a little bit more lawyery, where he was like, instead of just being like, you're going to be fine. Like, I would have been fun to see him on the stand. Like, I don't know, doing something.
I think it would have been interesting to see more, Ben and May and, well, I guess there's no May, and MJ and Gwen. Like, it would have been maybe too much, but also like kind of cool to like see more of that like Peter Parker family scenario, because they were like, oh, you're dead. Well, it's like, okay, well, Ben's dead too. Like, where's he at?
Well, that's the whole origin story thing, right? There's no origin story for Peter because we don't have it. Like, and I think in the origin story, Uncle Ben is the one that dies.
Right.
Also,
but
and then that's when Spider-Man decides to be Spider-Man.
I guess
Traditionally in the traditional Spider-Man canon.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I was kind of hoping to see Emma Stone or whatever. That might have been too much though.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Also, the scene, oh gosh, I'm going back to the scene where the three of them are talking. The one where they're like talking about how the web comes out of his arm.
Oh yeah.
That was good. I liked that.
That was well done.
I don't know. I don't think about it's like breathing. I was like, oh yeah, okay, all right.
That is something that is different about the modern Spider-Man kind of stuff, is that they have him make his own web fluid, which the comics have always kind of gone back and forth on, because it's also a convenient plot device to have him run out of web fluid.
Right.
When they need him to.
Yeah.
So
I didn't realize that I it's going back, we don't have an origin story for Spider-Man 1, but I guess I never kind of in my mind, I don't remember that they make their web fluid. I don't know.
Yeah. In previous iterations of Spider-Man, because I used to watch one of the animated Spider-Man, I think. And in the previous iterations of Spider-Man, there's a lot more emphasis on his science background, and they did a little bit with this one where they're like, I can fix that in 10 seconds, where they do this little montage thing, and they've done molecular physics in a high school chemistry lab.
yeah
Whatever, we'll just leave that aside. But Peter Parker is really good at science, and that's one of his traits, which has not at all been emphasized in the MCU Spider-Man stuff.
They've done a little bit in that, he kind of picked up after Tony, and he knows how to use the fabricator, and he's a little bit scientific. They made Tom Holland Spider-Man kind of a mechanical engineer. They made the one is a chemical engineer, and then the other one's a biologist, I think it is.
Something like that. I guess I always thought of the Tom Holland one as more of or maybe I'm mixing this up with the video game, but I always thought he was more like a computery person.
Okay, computery. Yeah, computery, mechanical. Yeah, I'm thinking more like Tony Stark style.
Gotcha. See, because I always thought that Tony Stark gave Tom Holland all the stuff that he did use.
But you still have to know how to use it.
Kinda it doesn't. I haven't gotten a good vibe for the personality of this Peter Parker, because he's mostly been running around fighting Thanos.
Yeah, that's fair. He's also still in high school.
He's also still in high school, but even in high school, Peter Parker, well, I guess he's in college in Tobey Maguire's one. I think he was in college at that point.
I think so. I don't remember. Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was a very good movie, and there was lots of very good synergy. And I did think that they colored in a little bit more and reminded you of a lot of Spider-Man details, I would say, in this movie.
Yeah. And they did it in a very nice way. Yeah.
Yeah. Without beating you over the head with it. So yes, for anyone else, you should have seen the movie by this point, but if you haven't for some reason seen the movie and you're listening to this and you've made it through an hour of us talking about it, if you are doing that, don't bother waiting for the second credit scene, because it is just the trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I was so annoyed when I sat through the whole credits, all the credits, and then this thing comes on, and it comes on normal, and you're like, okay, but then the shots for this are a little bit, they're cutting a lot. This feels like a trailer. And then there's music, and there's fortunately there was no announcer and there was no title text, because that would have just taken me completely out of it. But like, it was just a montage of scenes supposedly from the next movie, and I just did not need any of that. I was like, all I want, especially for a second credit scene, is like a really clever, funny, lighthearted moment, or something really meaningful, I guess. Like, that could have been when MJ talks to Ned and says like, oh, do you recognize that guy or whatever. Like, that could have been.
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
Right? That would have been great. You're like, oh,
it could have been like it could have been like a 6-second scene where it's just the doors closing and like you see Tom Holland walking away, and like MJ just looks at Ned and goes, I recognize that guy. And that could be it.
That would be it. And it would be great. And instead they had like a full minute trailer of like, you know, the stakes will be high, like without quite being like, there was no announcer, but then it ended with the Doctor Strange will return. And I was like, yeah, obviously, like he's in the trailer for the next movie.
They could have said like Peter Parker will be remembered.
They could have said that, but they didn't. And they also specifically, it said Doctor Strange will return, like they do, you know, in the end of Marvel movies. It did not say anything about Peter Parker or Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know. Like this did feel kind of like an end.
And that's the thing that everybody's kind of been wondering, and there have been some interviews with Tom Holland and stuff, is like, is there going to be more Tom Holland as Spider-Man? And I don't know.
I don't know either. They ended it on a note where the answer could be no.
And I think that would be okay.
I mean, sure, it would be okay. But like, I mean, I guess if you're going to go out with a bang, this is the way to go out. Because that movie was great. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I just got connected. Like, you just raised the stakes so high. I'm so connected to these characters now. Like, I would, like, if they ever said, oh, there's another Spider-Man with Tom Holland coming out ever again, I'd be like, I'm going to see it. Like, there's no doubt in my mind now. I'm so, invested in these characters now because they raised the stakes so high in this movie. What a thing to throw away.
Well, I guess if there's one thing we've all learned from Marvel is never count them out for bringing something back.
What I do want to say about that second credit scene is I did not stay for it because you told me, and thank you. I hope that does not become a trend.
Agreed.
Like the putting a trailer for another movie, just simply a trailer for another movie at the end. Can you imagine like 25 minutes of trailers at the beginning and then like another 10 minutes of trailers at the end?
Yeah, I think that's unnecessary. I don't think that is, especially because it has to be after 10 minutes of credits.
Yeah. No, thank you. Because then where do you stop? Do you put them before the credits then?
Yeah, I've always seen it as like whenever the movie theater turns the lights on is like when the important parts have happened. But then I still sit there and watch the whole thing and then see them eat shawarma at the end of Avengers. Like,
oh, yes.
You know, which is great. That's a funny scene. Like, it's clever.
Yeah.
And that was the first. I think that was the first one, the first major one.
That's the first one I remember. No, because Iron
Man.
No, because Iron Man had the Thor hammer at the end of it. The Thor hammer was the first post-credit scene.
True.
Just like, we found it in the desert. Maybe that was Captain America.
I don't remember.
I can't remember. I think it was Iron Man. Iron Man was the first post-credit scene, and it was the Thor. I could be totally wrong. Someone correct me. Contact us at discord.pnapodcast.com.
That's coming later.
Tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. On discord.pnapodcast.com. I think it was Iron Man where they found the Thor hammer in the desert and like, we found it. And it's like, you know, Agent whatever. And he's like, we found it in the, no. It's the guy with the Tahiti.
Oh yeah. Coulson.
Yeah, that one.
It's a magical place. Well, anyway, yes. Hopefully that this trailer thing does not become a norm. Although at that point there will be websites that pop up that will tell you if it's just a trailer.
That's true.
Speaking of the credits, though, real quick, one thing I did notice in sitting through the whole credits and waiting till that last scene was that they did have the music credits, and in the music credits they mentioned the themes from the previous Spider-Man movies.
Oh, I didn't notice them.
I didn't notice them either, but they were in the credits. So, I mean, I'm also not very familiar with the source material, so I don't know exactly what the Spider-Man theme that by Danny Elfman from 2002 sounded like.
I wonder if they played when they were portaled in, and I just didn't notice.
It was probably either that or in a particularly dramatic moment of the fight scene in the final battle.
Yeah, that's possible.
Which, by the way, putting a Captain America shield on the Statue of Liberty is a stupid idea.
Well, it's not there anymore, so all good.
They fixed it.
Fixed it. Yeah, no, I did not notice the theme musics for the other ones. I mean, I agree. I don't know them very well. Like, I can't pick them out or sing them, you know. But I think on a second watch through, which is definitely going to happen with this one, I would listen for them.
Of course. All right, we've gone from the intro of the movie all the way through to the credits and then some. Have we covered everything?
Goodness, I think so. I mean, I don't have anything else to say right now, but I think so. It was. I mean, I'll just wrap it up. I really don't like to do favorites because oftentimes I'm forgetting like half of the movies I've seen, and I don't think that's fair. And I just got home from this movie like 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago or whatever, right? Like, I just saw this movie today, so it's still very, very fresh for me. But I have got to say that movie is definitely in the top 5 Marvel movies for me.
Wow. I think I'd have to go back and like look through the list in order to really agree or disagree on that. I think it has probably the best payoff, like in terms of just tying, like doing what it set out to do, and also like I don't know, having kind of playing the long game and having the payoff for the setup. But I also had no idea they were setting anything up, and I don't know if they did either until this movie happened. So I don't know.
I think it was great, and I really, 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 really enjoyed it. Like, that is a Marvel movie I will watch probably again and again. Like, that is one that I definitely want to go back to and watch again and again, which I don't know that I can say about a lot of other Marvel movies.
It definitely had a feel of it being a standalone story that did not like just exist or need to exist to advance the larger MCU story. And I think that's really was the big strength there.
That's a good point. Yep. And it was both, it had a ton of action, which was really cool, and it was like super emotional and super dramatic, and I liked that. Like, it was really well done from all angles. And I think it just makes for a good, on its own, standalone movie. And that's great. If you're listening to this, we'd love to hear from you. I do want to warn you, if you post in the Discord or talk to us about it, make sure you're putting spoiler tags on stuff, because not everyone's seen it yet. But if you'd like to discuss it, you can join us at in our Discord, which you can get to at discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to find the list and the rest of our normal episodes, or read their show notes, or get in touch with us via email, you can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
If you're listening to this on release day or close to it, Happy New Year. We will be returning to our normal, every other week schedule after this episode. So feel free to share this one with other people that have seen the movie. And we look forward to, getting back on schedule probably, in a few days or whatever.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.